If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will get to those when Sarah has finished her presentation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sarah Palmer.
Great, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for coming out to the session today. I'm sure you've had a lot of great meetings, and as stated, we are going to do an update on what's new at ProQuest, and please feel free to put those questions in the chat panel and we will get those answered for you. So as mentioned, my name is Sarah Palmer. I'm one of the training and consulting partners at ProQuest. I'm also our North American team lead on our education side. So I work with our training staff, and one of the things that's new is that Wendell Butler, who's been your training and consulting partner for a number of years, very exciting. He has taken a new position with Innovative. So if you remember, because I know last year is kind of a blur for a lot of us, ProQuest acquired Innovative, or III, and Wendell has now gone on to join their sales team. So we're really excited about that. We love when someone can move to a different position and really stick with the company and have that institutional knowledge. So I'm filling in for him today, but rest assured we will be filling his position, not his shoes, but the position, and making sure that we continue our great level of resources for your consortia. So I joined ProQuest about 11 years ago. I came over in the Lexis acquisition, which will make sense on our next slide, kind of some tie-ins. Went to University of Illinois, and I live in Chicago. So I'm also a Lassiter High School graduate. So I did go to high school in Marietta, and so I have some ties to Atlanta. And the big news for ProQuest, if you have not seen this or heard this, ProQuest has been acquired, or we're in the process of being acquired. And the company that is acquiring us, if any of you have heard of Clarivate, Clarivate has a couple of brand name products that you might be familiar with, such as Web of Science, EndNote. They do work a lot in the corporate and government space. So they have products that feature, medical research and some patent and trade research. And so we are going to be joining their science group, ProQuest as a whole, which will be the Web of Science part of the company. So that is in process right now. That acquisition is in process, being reviewed by the government. Seems like it's going very well. Again, ProQuest and Clarivate together, we're really looking forward to being able to bring even more content and workflow to our customers and combine the strength of our two companies. Clarivate's very innovative in the solutions that it brings to the marketplace. So we're expecting that sale to close probably end of July, if all goes well, and business as usual. Nothing will be changing on our end in the near future. So please feel free. I put in the chat panel before everyone got here. I can do it again toward the end because sometimes it's hard for me to type and talk at the same time. So I'm sure you can relate to, but training@ProQuest.com if you have any questions, and we can get you some answers or help or assistance. So I think the next slide. Yeah. So again, closing expected third quarter, moving a little quickly. Again, thank you, Sheila, for putting that in there. We are operating as separate companies until the closing. So no change. It's business as usual. And we do have a press release that you can access with regard to the sale and the details. The biggest change, I think, for me, and I've been, my path to ProQuest was probably similar to some of you who entered library science. I went to undergrad. I was out of school for a number of years. I worked in sales and marketing. I was very interested in the information field, specifically library science, went back to school, got a master's in library science, worked in publishing, joined ProQuest. So I've worked for publicly held companies. ProQuest is a family held Cambridge Information Group. So that's what's being sold. So it's going to be a little, we'll have some changes, as far as reporting and making some information more public. So again, if you have any questions, really, I don't know much more than the press release, but like I said, it seems like things are going very well with regard to the acquisition. So as far as other items that are new at ProQuest, our product management staff has been hard at work to make it easier for ProQuest customers, specifically faculty and librarians, to utilize ProQuest products in instruction. And so we're really focusing on learning and instruction. And we're also looking at tools that allow that use. And so we know, because of some of our Alexander Street products, that LTI, or learning tools interoperability, is that standard by which what ProQuest is calling itself an ed tech provider, education technology provider, can link our content to learning management systems. So utilizing LTI and allowing us to provide that linking information. So this is really relevant to our K-12 customers and our academic institutions. And what LTI is going to provide is seamless authentication for library management users. They don't need to separately authenticate, which really helps students. We've heard this quite a bit in the past year with regard to students that are going to school remotely. They don't have the benefit now of going into a library, or they didn't, of going into a library and asking a librarian. Obviously, as people go back in person, we still want to have that technology available in case people are trying to utilize some of these tools. So this is one less place for IT to maintain information, and it's much easier for students to remember just one place to log in. So again, that seamless authentication, being able to utilize Canvas and use that linking technology. We do have some really great support center articles that show how to set that up. And of course, we can always help you with our customer service group if you have been hearing from maybe faculty that you work with, teachers that you work with, I'd really like to be able to use LTI in my class and be able just to assign the database right from my learning management system. So again, what does this mean for faculty and students? Again, we're working with the Canvas or Moodle products. And so the students have one place to access all course material. This saves time for faculty and students and creates an efficient workflow for the course. And if you've ever worked with Canvas or Moodle, there are a number of steps. I'm not going to say that it's like one click, but it's one of those systems that once you get used to how you are putting the materials into the syllabus and the course modules, it's very easy to then be able to add the ProQuest materials to those class schedules. So we're really happy about that, because this is an example that one of our colleagues put together. We have a person on our staff who has worked before with Canvas. And so this is how administrators or instructors can create a new course. And again, the modules can be released to students at any time during the course. This fits in very nicely if you have maybe helped somebody set up an alert in a ProQuest database or product, and now they say, oh, a new article just came out and I really think this would be something that I want my students to have access to. So they can go ahead and add that module. And then on the next slide, we'll look at how you can add a ProQuest article or document to the course module. This page allows you to add an item, and you can add the external tool content to the course. So you select the ProQuest platform to open the main search page for the ProQuest subscription and open access resources. Again, as I mentioned, we've got a support center article that has instructions for embedding a document as an item within a course module. And we'll talk a little bit about some later on about some updates that have also been made to the ProQuest platform. So again, if this is something that you're interested in, I would, again, contact us at training@ProQuestcom. We have a couple more screenshots. These might look familiar to you if you have worked with these resources before, and how you can add to Moodle. So this is a screenshot of Moodle. I didn't want to spend too much time on those. The other tool that we have added to the ProQuest platform, so this would be anything on that main ProQuest platform. We heard a lot about the need to have Google Drive and also Microsoft OneDrive. So on the results page, this is new as of January, we now have under the all options, I know it's a little small and I don't know if on, okay, good. On Zoom, I can annotate. So if you notice here, this cloud saving, this information here is new. And I also think that under citation, you will also be able to add noodle tools. So again, looking at resources for that K-12 academic market to be able to utilize more of these tools after the fact when they're doing their research. So what I like about this is, I know in my area that the students use Google Drive and Google Classroom quite a bit. And this is a nice way that they can begin to save all of their research into one place. So again, not just their ProQuest research, but other research they've come across in their process of looking at results. You'll also notice that we still have the citation exports for RefWorks and EasyBib. And as I mentioned, Noodle Tools is also an option you can turn on. It's just not here in this screenshot. And so those are new options after the fact, after you've run a search. It's a little hidden because you do have to click on that icon that has the dots on there, the ellipses, and that's going to go ahead and open up those all save options. So again, great response from students who have been working with this and being able to now save all of their resources or all of their results into one space. I will say one of my favorite changes that has happened recently is the publication page optimization. I don't know if you remember, but previously when I would do training, a lot of times with specifically with news content, you know, people come to the library or the librarian and they say, I want to find out what happened on my grandfather's birthday, or I want to see what happened on this day this year. And you had to do that strange tree structure. It was a lot of steps that you had to go through. And what we have now done, when you search publications on the ProQuest platform, we take you to the most recent issue. That was something that people just said, look, I just want to see the most recent issue. I don't want to have to click a lot to get to that most recent issue. So that first one is going to show on the publication page. Then if you want to get further into the specific issues, you'll notice now that it's much easier to browse and it's much easier. Well, actually, this is how it used to be. It's much easier now to just choose that issue. So being able to choose the specific issue and date really helps, again, answer those questions that you might get at a reference desk where people say, I want to see what happened after this event, or I want to see what the front page looked like on this day. So that replaces the previous browse, again, gets rid of all that clicking. The copy URL button is also a great way that you can share information when you do find an issue that you want to share with somebody. So that is going, I know this is a little tough to see because it's over on here, but if you notice, you can copy the URL and you can share that publication if somebody's interested in that specific publication. I don't know about you, but I am finding that I am getting more questions about specific publications than I have in the past, where people are asking, do you have this journal? Do you have this newspaper? And so doing more of that publication specific title searching has become something that I've been showing more often. Again, if that's anything that you need a refresher on, just let us know and we can help you out with that. Okay, finally we had to make some changes. This was very interesting to hear some of the reasons behind these changes. So last year, with institutions remaining closed, people wanted easier access to their library resources. You have them, you're providing them. We want to make sure that your users can get to them. And what was really interesting is that if you had ever noticed before, our URL, what had always been search.proquest.com. And to students, that was a little strange. We've all been doing a really good job in the library community talking about vetting resources, looking at your sources, looking at where you're going. And that was a little odd to them. So on the next slide, I'll show you what we've done on that change. But what we want to do is that we can allow some open web entry to the ProQuest platform. And so we are now indexing a lot more content on Google, because what we want to do is meet the users where they are. If they aren't using your library catalog, if they aren't using your library discovery, but they're using Google, we want to make sure that they're still getting to those resources that you're providing to them. So what they're going to get to is a screen that looks like this, and they can search open access content. If they hit a result that needs to be authenticated, they are going to get a prompt to log in through their library in order to access more features. So if that's anything that you need resources on how to train your users on how to log in, again, we have training videos that we have created for that. But this open web entry allows people to get to the ProQuest platform and then authenticate to the library so that they are still using your resources through another entry point. So I talk a lot in my training about discovery being a very large entry point, a database being a smaller front door, a specific entry point, and then the web really trying to get people to those library provided resources. So this is what I was talking about. I thought this was really interesting. We did a lot of user studies and found that students wanted our website to be ProQuest.com. They thought search.proquest.com was odd. And what this now does is it also makes it easier for you if you are telling someone, hey, where should I go to get resources? You can say ProQuest.com. And now this is our search platform and not our corporate website platform as it had been in the past. So it seems like a small change, but this is a huge impact on getting started on research. And again, like I said, this was analyzing years of user behavior. It became clear that a large percentage of students and faculty were coming to ProQuest.com looking to do research. And what they found was our company homepage. And so we had information on products and services and news, but we didn't have the databases they were looking for. And we knew that because of the searches they were trying to run on our corporate website, where they're running, different newspaper titles or journal titles. And we kind of got the idea, okay, they're trying to do research here. Now, the good thing is that there's absolutely no change that you need to do. The search.proquest.com links will continue to function always, and the bookmarks will all operate normally. So we've done all the work for you. Now, if you are looking for our corporate website, where we do have information about the Clarivate acquisition and new products that are being released and things of that nature, you can still find that in that top left-hand corner, and you would just go to company website. So that is still included there. And our LibGuides still provide product access to our resources as well. So if you go to our LibGuides and it will say search and it will have the name of the resource, you can still use that to get into the product. All right. So we do have the list of databases, and the platform will still include a list of databases. You can use that brief view if you want to just have that listing. And this will also show you how you can you can select databases to combine across searches. Now, I don't know, because this happened pretty recently, and I don't know if we have a slide. One thing that we've done is for our products that have more layers to them, specifically the news products, if you happen to have those at your library, they now will allow you to click to the most discrete level. And so what that will allow you to do is, if you have the Wall Street Journal historic newspaper, if you have the US news stream, you can now combine across all the date ranges. And so when you see things like the example here, and again, this is just specific to the ProQuest platform, you can now open up to even more discrete levels of information. And I know not all of this is Galileo, but again, if you at your library have other ProQuest resources, this is a nice way to be able to combine databases and search across all of them at the same time. So in this example, what we're doing is we're just selecting some specific arts and a country life archive, and we're using those selected databases. And now what you'll notice is that now it's showing me that I'm just searching across 5 databases. Again, why is this important? This can be very helpful for students who maybe still want to cast a very wide net, but they want to do it with more specific databases. They're looking for architecture information on bungalows. They don't necessarily need a business resource or something of that nature that would be included. And then also what it's going to do is allow the results to be more on point. You'll notice that over on the right-hand side, this is not a new change at all, but just want to point it out that over on the right, we're also going to provide books that match your search, and we're going to provide videos that match your search. And that's all based on the library subscription. So we're not showing anything that's not available to the user. You can also combine Ebook Central. And so the Ebook Central database can be combined with our database searches that's now listed on the database list, and will also provide those book results. So those ebook results, if you have our Ebook Central collections. I'm just going to take some water here really quick. So let's talk about Ancestry. Ancestry.com, the paid subscription, and then Ancestry Library Edition. So we're talking about Ancestry Library Edition. And if you aren't aware, because they haven't been super forthcoming about this, but Ancestry Library Edition has been working with ProQuest, and ProQuest has been working with libraries who request remote access to the Ancestry Library Edition product. So if that's a need, we can put you in contact with our customer service and they can work with you. There are some specific parameters around how they make that approval. Again, like I said, they weren't very forthcoming about it. My understanding is that that's going to be available until the end of this year. Ancestry has a caveat that Ancestry Library Edition doesn't typically support remote access users. So there are some security concerns that they have to work with you on. They do not provide remote access for genealogical and historical societies, museums, or other not-for-profits. So it does have to be a library requesting the access. And again, it would be the same content as if it was Ancestry Library Edition. So this is one of the slides that I always include in my Ancestry training, is when someone says, oh, this is great, my library has access to Ancestry, I am going to cancel my Ancestry library subscription or my Ancestry.com subscription. And the way that I generally caution people is Ancestry.com, because it is a paid subscription, it has the leaf. So if you've ever seen the commercials where it's helping the people make their connections through their family research, that is only available in the paid subscription. Ancestry Library Edition does have family trees that people have posted, but they're read only. Whereas Ancestry.com, you can create family trees and you can share them. The Ancestry Library Edition does not have a DNA component, although we'll talk a little bit about how people can utilize what they've learned from any DNA results in their Ancestry Library Edition service. The one thing I will say is that if you aren't aware of this, Ancestry.com charges extra for the international information, but the international information is available in Ancestry Library Edition. So I've actually at times been at trainings where people have their laptop and they're working on their own personal account because they want to save everything, and then they're utilizing the library's resources to get to the international data. So that's been very interesting to see. Ancestry Library Edition now includes the World War, this says 2, but I think it's World War I draft registration cards. And this includes the, or no, it's World War II, sorry. It says right there, World War II. I'm looking at the wrong slide. So they've added these registration cards, and I find these very helpful because of listing the mother or father and also the place of birth. I have found that to be very helpful when even just testing things out with my own family. So for after World War II, after the US entered World War II, a new Selective Service Act required all men between the ages of 18 and 65 register for the draft. And this includes 10 million American men. And again, what this can do is provide information about their parents and some more locational information. This can include employer information. It includes a physical description of the registrants. Now, these are also in Fold 3, but again, you can get them through the Ancestry Library Edition, and just a really great resource to now have available. The other thing that's new, and bear with me because this is it's a little confusing, so I'll try to make this as easy to understand as possible. If you have seen recently, when you open up Ancestry Library Edition, and I was just looking at it this morning, it has a banner that talks about the Newspaperscom obituary index and that you now have access to the index. So this has made millions of obituaries now available through Ancestry Library Edition. It is a little misleading on the right-hand side here where it says you need a subscription. You don't need a subscription to access the index. And the index, I find that the search works really well. Now, there is a citation for every result. And depending on the date of the citation, the full obituary could be in Newspaper.com Library Edition, or this is where it gets confusing. There's also a Newspapers.com paid subscription. But for your patrons, if they are trying to follow some death records and they're trying to follow more clues for obituaries, this is a great resource because at least they're getting that clue. If they need to do a little bit more work to order something or pay for pay for that obituary in some other source, at least they're getting more information through the Newspapers.com obituary index. All right, so next year, does anyone know why Dolly Parton is not included in Ancestry Library Edition at this time? I'll take a quick drink of water. You didn't know you were going to get a quiz question. So the answer, the reason is, and I kind of put it in the top of the slide, Dolly Parton's not that old. So Dolly Parton was born in 1946. So next year, there will be a new census made available. And I remember, because I was at ProQuest the last time the census, the 1940 census came out, it crashed the system. So you may have to be a little patient when the 1950 census comes out. Yeah, 1946. If I am to believe Wikipedia, I am going with 1946. So believe it or not. And this is actually a billboard from my favorite Dolly Parton movie. But yeah, the United States censuses were taken every 10 years. So 1790 up until now, but you have to wait 72 years after a census to release the date. So 1950 is going to be in 2022. So she wouldn't have been around for the 1941. And the 72-year rule, and that is a public law. So it's Public Law 95-416, restricts access to the decennial census for all but the named individual. So again, I don't know if any of you know, because I don't know. I'm curious. I'm assuming, and I would have to ask the product manager, which maybe now I'll have to do this, but I'm going to assume that the 1950 census is still handwritten, is what I'm guessing, because I'm assuming it's still a field person and it's still a census taker in the field. But I will see if I can find out. I don't know if I can find that out before it's released, but again, what does this mean? This means that we still have those situations where things can be transposed or names can be misspelled, or the first name can be in the last name file and the last name can be in the first name file. And I do get a lot of feedback when I do Ancestry Library Edition webinars. And I don't know if all of you hear this when you're working with patrons, but oftentimes people will ask, how do I get something corrected? And really they have to contact Ancestry. And I was doing they used to have a button in Ancestry Library Edition. I can't find it now, but it would say, help us make this better, give us feedback or let us know if something needs correction. They took that away and I can't find it easily on their corporate site. But really what they do is they change the metadata. So like both of my grandmothers have their names misspelled, as far as I know. I mean, they're not around to ask, but it looks like they're misspelled. I would have to contact Ancestry, and then what they would do, if you've ever seen the brackets in Ancestry, they add those brackets to indicate that something has different metadata. So yeah, so Dolly Parton will be in the next census. We can find her information. With the DNA, Ancestry's DNA tests have become very popular, the 23andMe, all of those things. If you have people who have taken DNA tests and they get suggestions for ethnic origins, really they can still use Ancestry Library Edition, because what Ancestry really wants people to do is to start to use the international records. And those international records are getting added to very frequently. And I'm sure all of you know how to use the card catalog in Ancestry Library Edition, where you can see what content's been added and what content has been updated. And so that's why when I do presentations, I really encourage people to keep track of that research calendar, because just because something wasn't available today doesn't mean that it's not going to be available tomorrow or the next day. They really have made a commitment to add content even to the library edition. So again, that can be very, very helpful. And again, I've had questions like, is there DNA information in Ancestry Library Edition? No, not at all. I don't have any examples. Like this is the only screenshot I've really seen of what a test kit looks like as far as looking at ethnic origins. So again, great news. Even though HeritageQuest is really heavy into US content, and again, I should mention, the census information in HeritageQuest and Ancestry Library Edition are exactly the same. The search just works differently. Ancestry Library Edition, I feel like, has a more targeted search, whereas HeritageQuest, you can't search across all of the data sets at one time. And I also feel like you have to put a lot more facets into HeritageQuest prior to being able to access information. So even though HeritageQuest does tend to be US content, if you scroll all the way to the bottom on there, after you hit begin searching, which doesn't really begin searching, it just takes you to that page with all the different data sets, scroll down to the bottom, and then you're going to be able to search records in other locations. Again, then those data sets have to be searched on their own. I will say that within the international data, especially in HeritageQuest, a lot of it is from, and I can't remember the name of the service now, but it's from a service that then it links out to that site, and it will give very detailed citation information about if it's a closed data set. And that's really important for researchers, because there are some international data sets where it will indicate this is not being updated. This is a closed set. This is all that's going to be added to this information. So this is what the Ancestry Library Edition looks like. Again, that card catalog, looking at the specific records. If you've ever seen the Ancestry commercial that they run about yearbooks, that is under the school directories, and that's always very popular when I do presentations. People like to search for their city or their state. They like to look back at what was popular at that time, fashion, cars, things like that. The Sears catalog is in Ancestry Library Edition. People really like to see pricing. That's really good for school assignments. If they're doing something with inflation or the cost of goods, I find that can be very helpful. So there's other things in Ancestry, not just limited to family research. So again, this is what I had mentioned about the card catalog and looking at specific filters. So looking at Europe and France, you'll notice when items have last been updated, you'll see how many records are included in each item. I like that it also indicates if the information is in another language. So that's good to know before you start getting into the information. Here's what we're looking at for HeritageQuest. As I mentioned, one of the challenges when you are working with patrons, I always have a slide that's like, I just want to click this button. Well, you can click that button, but it's not going to search across everything. You have to search each data set, which actually I think can be sort of good sometimes to get people started in family research. But you'll notice it's got the top content up here at the top. They did a little bit ago take away, they used to have the slave census, and I think because they can only have 6 things, they had switched up a little bit, but those are still available. If you go to the US Census records and you hit view all, you will still see that information in here, and that can be very helpful for patrons who are looking for family members. Also, the city directories, I've been having a lot of fun with those, people finding relatives and businesses that they used to own. So there's some good, some information if you haven't explored all of HeritageQuest, good stuff in there to take a look at. So as I mentioned, this link to newspapers.com, that's also going to be within HeritageQuest, and the major collections in HeritageQuest, the census, same as the Ancestry Library Edition, Freedmen's Bank records, part of the serial set, Revolutionary War, So you can get people started right from those text boxes. So I went pretty fast. I had a lot to cover, but I wanted to leave some time for questions in case you had any questions. And if you don't have any questions, I could switch out to Ancestry because I know I went over that quickly, but I want to make sure that you all know where the international content is. So I'll pause for a second and see if there's any questions. And then again, I can move over to the product live too.
Don't have any questions in the chat. Well, we just got a comment. So you still have the comparison sheet between Ancestry and Ancestry Library Edition for us to complete.
Yeah, so let me put I'm going to put the basic, not basic, the general, our training at ProQuestcom. The reason I'm doing that rather than my personal email is because this is monitored by a team. And so if I'm out of the office, you know, because yay, we can travel now again and take vacation. We do have a chart and I can get that for you. It may just need to be updated a little bit. Again, I mean, I know this is being recorded and there's just that kind of tension between making the remote access thing super public, but I feel confident, you know, I can tell all of you, and if you do want to get that Ancestry Library Edition set up for remote, that may just be something we can't put on that chart. But that my understanding is they are going to support that through the end of this year. Yeah, the biggest things really are, you know, is the international content, and then just not having, and you know, this, maybe you don't want to be social, you know, I'm fine with that. Like if you don't want to share, and that, you know, I know that's been odd for some people that they don't want to be contacted by other people. So they may want to use Ancestry Library Edition where it's a little more private. One really great resource that I've been showing in conjunction with the Ancestry Library Edition and HeritageQuest, Pinterest seems to be a really big hotbed of genealogy research. The caution is, and again, you know, these are conversations that you may have to have with your patrons. You don't want to publish anything about somebody living. You don't want to publish anything about children. You really want to be careful who you're sharing your information with. But again, there's some good resources there. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second, and I'm going to move over to Ancestry really quick. And then you can, if there's any other questions, you can shout them out. All right, so Ancestry Library Edition. Go back to Zoom, and I will share my screen. All right. So looking at, like I said, looking at the Ancestry Library Edition, if you are new to training on this at all at your library, the other part that I point out all the time is this charts and forms area. And this is what I was talking about, this research calendar. And when you download it, and this isn't in HeritageQuest, but it is available through Ancestry on their website for free. So in Ancestry Library Edition, they provide it. In HeritageQuest, they kind of make you go look for it. But being able to write the description of the source and then the time and period that you searched is really important, because when I go back to, now, again, this is a little misleading because here it says new collections, but it's actually the card catalog in full. And so when I was looking at this today, I don't know why this says 0 records in here. Oh, it looks like because it's still a browse. Oh, here, this was the source I was thinking of. So this family search website, when you go out to this family search website, I think they do such a good job of talking about the collection. And a lot of the international collections that I've come across are what they call closed collections. So let me just go to, let's see, search, and we'll do immigration and travel. bear with me just a moment. I know it's no fun to watch people work sometime through information. I'm gonna go to, hang on. Categories. I want to do all categories. There we go. I always have to scroll down to the bottom. So if I go to Europe and I'm just going to pick Denmark and I go here to, I'm just picking Denmark marriages. Okay. And so this is one that's on Family Search. And so see here where it says this is a legacy collection. And so that is a great way if somebody is getting really frustrated, you know, just being able to tell them, hey, you know, it's just going to be, what were the date ranges here? So this is Denmark marriages, 1635 to 1916. Oh, goody. And they're in Danish. So, but it's a legacy collection. So this will not be added to. So if for some reason they think they're looking for a record from 1635 to 1916 and they don't find it, it's not going to be added to this data set. Again, I know that that can be frustrating for people as they're doing research, but that's just kind of, you know, that's how it goes. But at least they're telling you. And I'll just make sure. Okay, I don't see anything in chat. I want to point out another thing. So I was recently asked about hitting a wall when looking for adoption records. And I had to explain to the person that adoption records, that's just not something that you are likely to find. But if I search the keyword, I can at least see that I've got some adoption information. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll also try it in the title just to see. So you can see that there's nothing with the title adoption, but I can put it into the keyword and I do get a couple results. But like I said, that's, you know, that's not information that necessarily is always going to be available. I mean, this 1918 to me even seems kind of current. Maybe I'm getting older, but I'm like, ooh, that seems kind of current. I mean, here, like 1567 to 1936. Okay. But yeah, so that can be, so searching the card catalog by keyword can also be very helpful if maybe somebody's sort of stuck and you're trying to show them what is actually available in the product. So great. Any other questions I can answer about what's new at ProQuest? I don't see anything coming through.
We don't have anything in the chat, but if anyone has questions, feel free to turn on your mic as well. Or you can type in questions in the chat.
And I know I'm using my account, so I have a lot of, obviously I have a lot of databases, but I was just going to show you what I was talking about with regard to being able to click down. So if you notice, if you're a library that happens to have our global news stream or you have our US news stream product, it used to just end at US major dailies. And that was always very frustrating because if you wanted to combine that with a specific title, you couldn't do that until a couple weeks ago. So now you can get down to the Wall Street Journal. So if you had the historic Wall Street Journal, or you don't have to run a search across all US major dailies and then facet from there. You can look at a specific title. And so that's a new development, which I'm really thrilled about because we do have people who are trying to research trends over time, and it had been very hard for them to make those connections. So that's what I was talking about being able to get to the lower level. All right. Well, if no one has any other questions, thank you very much for listening to our updates, and we'll keep you posted on any new developments, and looking forward to the next couple months and seeing what happens. And again, just please feel free to email that training@ProQuest.com. I'll make sure that we've got an updated comparison chart, and we can get that out to you for the Ancestry questions.
Well, thanks, Sarah. And again, we will be posting the recording later. You all have a great afternoon. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day.